Hi everyone, it's Diane, and this is part 2 of this how to dress a miniature bed. There's so much to be done in this video that I broke it down into two different videos. Now, to do the comforter, you're going to need 3 things. You need the top of your comforter, the stuffing of your comforter, and the bottom of your comforter. So I'll cut this, the bottom or the lining, after I do this part. So what I did, using this as an example, some beds have posts. If your bed has a post, this would happen to you in real life. You would need a specific cover because you wouldn't be able to go around the post like this. So what I did with this piece is I notched it to fit snugly around the post, so when I put this down, I'm going to do it permanently. It's going to be glued down so that it looks like it has weight and volume. I'm going to do the same thing for this bed, and I can show you how I did that. And basically what it is the top, the bottom, and what's inside here that makes it thick and plushy is this flannel. What I want to do is, here's a pillow, and the pillow, I want to be able to see that, and I want to be able to, so I want the comforter to come up here, and there's also going to be a decorative one. So I also want this to come down to about just above the edge, or actually just below the edge of this, but on the side I want you still to be able to see it. So I made this strip as my center. Now what I have to do is fit this square of fabric, taking into account the seam allowances you're going to need, because once it's done, you're going to lose this, you're going to lose this, and you're always going to lose this. So you have to take into account the seam allowance. So with this as my center, I want the comforter to come down to about here. So I'm going to use this purple as my seam allowance. And I will cut there. And the same thing on this side, because I have it centered, so this same purple one, this purple stripe. Now if you were using as your top a fabric, you would have to actually make the measurements, which you would be able to do. And let me tell you what size this is. Let me just cut it and I'll give you a final. If I've not confused you and you're still following me, the size of this square of fabric is 7 by almost 7. So for a twin bed, if you do a square, you should have enough fabric where you can still see the pillow. That's your seam allowance. And you can still see the bottom of your bed, if you see what I mean. And the same thing with this. Your seam allowance here is going to go up, so you'll be able to see the bottom lace. And since this is going to be back this far, you're going to be able to see all of this. Hopefully that didn't confuse you too much. Now, what we want to do is cut a matching size piece. So we're going to cut here and here. And if you are not the type to rip it the way I was doing it, just make lines. You could use either your square, or you could just follow it like this and draw yourself a line. Okay, and just cut it. I'm going to take a big scissor to cut this because it's a lot of fabric and it goes faster. So now you have your 2 squares of fabric. One is slightly smaller than the other. That's fine. Just find the one. Now I am using this side of the fabric, not the brighter side, the duller side, so that it matches better with the bed. So with that in mind, I have to figure out now my batting. Now this is a small piece, so I am going to center it. So if I've got about 1 1/8 inch here. So I do 1 on each side. So 1 inch, let's shift it over a little bit. A little bit over 1 inch. So just gonna square it off. Pull this over until it's like about 1 inch. And then from here to here, just make a mark on the flannel. And you're going to cut it from here to here. I'm going to center it. Now, I'm going to turn this over. This is the side I don't want to use. So I am going to take this and I'm going to take a little bit of the Fabri-Tac and I'm going to tack down each corner. Centered. Turn this over. See how I said it bleeds a little bit? Hopefully that won't be a problem. Hopefully it'll dry clear, because I didn't think of that. I probably should have used a tacky, regular white tacky glue. Now, since this is the side, this is what I'm considering my good side. You take the good side of your other fabric and you face the 2 good sides together. Okay? We are going to want to, when we draw out what we want for this notched piece, we want to take into account, like this side is, let's think of this as at the top of the bed. Top of the bed. This side's going to remain open at all times until the very end. So just think of this as the top of the envelope, and this is where it's open. We are looking at this on the bed, and I'm using this as a seam allowance. So I'm going to make the same width, which is literally 1/2 inch. So let's put this aside for a minute. If you are getting confused by anything that I'm doing, drop me a comment or DM me, and I will be happy to explain to you what I'm doing. If you're still with me anyway. So that's where you're going to put the glue. You're going to put the glue along here and along here. Okay, in order to determine the placement of the notches, you have to measure from here to here. This is 3 1/4 inches, just under. So I'm going to make sure it's just under 3 1/4 and make it 3 1/8. Now I have to center that on this line. You could do it this way by literally just marking it right there, and then marking it right here. I wanted to come in an inch, so you're going to come in an inch from your seam allowance, your seam line, and here is this notch, and here is this one. So let's come in then from this seam allowance up another inch. This one up another inch. I know this is so confusing. It's even confusing for me, so bear with me. All right, so this is going to be that. You came up here an inch, so we need a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So when you fold it, it's going to be like that and that. And this is your seam. This is your seam. And this is your seam allowance. And this is your seam allowance. I'm going to cut it, and maybe you'll understand when we glue it exactly what I was doing. Okay, those are your notches. So you are going to put glue along here and along here, along here and along here, and then also along here. Not to mention your seam allowances here and here. If you don't have a post, you don't have to worry about it. You just make yourself a square, forget about this, and you're good to go. No problem. Okay. And just, this is your seam allowance, so like we did with the pillows, you're just going to follow this line. Seam allowance is right along here and along here, so follow the line. Now, you got your glue. You got to do this pretty fast because otherwise the glue is going to dry. You want to now lay the good side and the good side together. So let's, if it makes it easier to see, let's do it this way. Okay. And I just realized that we have a little bit, still have a little bit too much of the felt. And I'm going to pull this up. It's too close to the seam allowance. So I want it to be, since this is the seam allowance, as you see, it's coming too low. So I'm going to literally bring this up an inch like I did before. So this is going to be an inch shorter. Okay, I'm gonna glue this down with the correct glue. Okay, and now you're just gonna let that dry completely. Don't even think about turning it over until it's absolutely 100% dry, because you're just going to literally rip your seams. You're just gonna have holes everywhere where the glue did not take. So I'm gonna do that and put that aside. Let's go back. This is all dry, and what I realized is that I really need to add a small piece of the batting in the part that's going to be a very small piece that's going to be hanging over the bed, this part that goes in between the two legs. I'm going to cut this at around there, and I'm going to make some marks. Where's my pencil? Here it is. I'm going to make some marks as to where it is, because it's hard to see. But right now, I'm just going to glue this down. Just like that. There's your two marks. I want to butt this up against the other one so that we have a little bit of dimension to the part that's going to be laying over. So right now I'm going to cut out the tabs here on the blue portion. Let's determine where these corners are, and it's right there. Make a mark. Remember, we're going to be turning this inside out, so it's not a problem. And then this one, this side, right there is where it ends. And the reason I'm doing that is because we have this corner. Get back there again. We have this here, and I want to cut a little slit here from here to here, leaving about 1/8 of an inch of the glue so that it's easier to turn when we go to turn it. So I'm just going to do a diagonal cut just like that, just a snippet, and I'll do it on the other side. And that just releases a little bit of the fabric. That's all that really is there for. Now we're going to set this aside so this portion can dry so it doesn't move when we turn it inside out. So while we're waiting for that to dry, I figured we would just start making just one accent pillow that could go over the bedsheet pillow. I could do something with something completely different. I could turn this over and it would be a dark version of this. So I think I might do that. Now we're going to work with a square. A square that's going to be small enough to sit in front of this pillow. I'm going to move this all the way. I'm lining it up along this edge. This is the finished edge of the fabric. So we have that. So that's one. And again, let's measure what sides we want this to be. I'm going to go with, since the pillow is 2.5 inches, I think I'm going to go with a 1.5 inch decorative pillow. So 1.5 plus another half for your seam allowance. So I would say let's cut a square of 2.5. So 2.5. Let's use the triangle to square that off. And then use the triangle again to square this off. Okay, let's cut it out. Okay, let's go with this. I need to put the lines on this side. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that looks pretty square. And let's cut the other side. And I don't think we actually have to measure anything. Let's just cut it. It's small enough to do it by hand. Okay, so then when we glue this, the two facing sides are going to be together so that when we turn them over, they'll be out. So, nice straight lines. So our accent pillow has nice edges. I'm going to face the two dark sides together. And we'll press there, there, and on the sides. Now I'm going to let that dry. And this should be dry enough since it's quick dry tacky glue. We're going to clip these corners. This corner this corner. And this corner. And I'm going to turn this over. Checking on that last piece that I glued. It seems to be fine. Got these two corners, and then you need to get these corners. Now let's work all those seams out in the corners. Now your finish would be for these corners a little bit nicer if you were to sew rather than glue. And we're not done. We're going to put a binding. If you look here, I know it looks harsh right now, but if you look here, we're going to do this. We're going to take embroidery floss and we're going to edge the whole blanket just like that, and it gives it a nice finish. You can see the contrast on this side. So that side looks nice and square. This side is a little bit less. So I'm going to take my scissor like I did earlier. And I'm going to go very carefully, because we don't want anything to get cut. I'm going to push that corner out further. See how it's working? It's just a matter of getting the sharpest corner you can get. Okay. Now, what you would want to do is run a warm iron over it. You don't want to run a hot iron over it because you would melt the glue, and I think you would just have a literal hot mess. First, we want to close this. Same way you closed the end of the pillow, you're going to be closing this. So I'm going to fold over the end here about 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to fold over the end on this side about 1/4 of an inch. And this is where maybe ironing would come in handy. Okay. Definitely iron if you are sewing. Now when I get it where I want it, once I have it where I want it, I'm going to take the glue and run it just along the outer edge. Don't go too far in. And press it down. Okay, now to test the bed, the fit, There we go. This is pink embroidery floss. It's a thicker version of embroidery floss. There are different weights of embroidery floss. There's this very thin, which you can use, but you'd hardly be able to see it. And then there's this thicker wound embroidery floss, which is what we're going to use today. Now, the best place to start is in one of these corners. So I'm going to start in this corner, and I'm just going to take a little bit right along the actual seam. And you're going to run it along where the exact spot where both fabrics meet. If you got too much, just do that. You're going to take one end and you're just going to tuck it into that corner, and pulling this a little bit taut, run it along that bead of glue. See? And basically you're just going to do that going all the way around. Wipe off any excess. Now you're just going to go from around the corner, take this hand, grab the end, and just there you go. That is your coverlet or your comforter. And that's what it would look like. Okay, so let's go back to, we're going to glue this down, but we'll do it later after we get everything set up the way we want it. Okay, this is the throw pillow. And I'm going to cut the corners like we usually do. And cut a little bit off here. And then on this side, do a little snippet here, and a little snippet there. And we're going to turn it over, turn it inside out. We're going to add some edging on it like we did with the bed. I'll show you what we're going to do. But prior to doing that, before you glue, there was a couple of things you could have done. And adding some kind of accent piece onto it that would go into the edge would work. Now, for this one, I'm unrolling the cotton and I'm just breaking it up. And then I'm going to stuff it. So that I could just get it into the corners. I want to make this one somewhat firm because, as we said, it is an accent pillow and they tend to be a little more firm than a sleeping pillow. And that was just one. And now I'm going to get another one into there. Trying to work out the lumps. Take another one of these. Unroll it. Pull it apart. And just start stuffing it in until you get to maximum capacity. Now I want to overfill it because when we fold this down to close it, I want it to remain somewhat firm. So, okay, now that's about right. That's 2 cotton balls in there. And I can spread it out once I get this folded down and glued. See, there we go. Let's make sure that the width here is the same as this. Let's glue that down. And then we'll adjust the stuffing. Let's just do a little bit of glue on the edge so we have all that room to work with. There we go. Okay. Now I have this other trim that is like a picot trim. I believe that's what it's called. And it's like a nice band with these dental looking fluffs coming off it, if you could see that. And I'm going to run that around the edge rather than the embroidery floss because I thought that would give it a nice finish. In the middle of probably your worst side, which I would say is this side, because then that would be the side that you're going to put again against the bed, whereas these 3 sides are the one that you'll be most drawn to seeing. Let's start here. And just go along the seam. All right. Start here. Just go around to the other side and just press down into the glue. And you're basically going to do that all the way around. On one side, as you can see, it just looks like regular piping, and on the other side, it's a little more decorative. So it's up to you what side you prefer. I'm going to snip it at the beginning. Seal the edge. The back or the front, and this is the other side. And this is your bottom. That's where the 2 pieces meet. So the 2 ends. So what we're doing is we're going to, now that we're finished with that, there are several things that you can do. We can pull this back like this. There's your, we could keep it on completely. You can do this. And I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to do this. On the bigger one, you might be able to do this as if the bed is being prepared. But I think this bed is too small for that, so I'm going to do it like this. But first I'm going to glue down this corner and these corners. And I'm going to use the Fabri-Tac to do that. So put a little glue here. A little glue there. And got all those spider webs. And we're just going to press it down. You can still see your lace, a little bit wonky lace. Then we're going to bring this down, and it's this, we'll worry about the pillows afterwards. And then it's this part that's going to be against the bed, not the bottom. So wherever the comforter hits is where you're going to glue it down. That's one side, and and then the other side. Hold those for a second. Now we want to fold this back a little. So what we're going to have to do is tack this and this corner back. And to take advantage of the throw pillow, I think that would be good. So I'm going to do these two sides at once. Now remember, this is permanent, so once you get it down, I think I'm going to tack a little bit of glue over here, just to help it out, staying down. Now we want to pull this a little bit taut, and you're going to put glue right here. And push that down. I'm going to hold that before I do the other side. And then a little bit over here. Looks like a comfortable bed to me. Now let's, okay, gonna glue down the pillow. Okay, and now let's put down the accent pillow. Let's put a little glue here at its highest points. This is usually where you put it and where you think it's going to rest. And I'm going to put it just like that. And there you have it. Your bed, fully dressed. You can still see the butterflies. And you can do this with any kind of fabric, combinations, any kind of bed. It's just the techniques that you need to take with you. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll be happy to answer. And also, if you haven't yet, please subscribe and give this video a like if you liked it. And I will see you next time at the Creative Bohemian. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.